Theory.
Deku would sit there in his divine calamity form. What? For Deku would fly up, teleporting at near light speeds near Zatulu, punching him, sending him flying out of the solar system before getting blasted through the chest, grabbing the attack and crushing it with his bare hands. Calamity Smash! Throwing a moon at him. Where the fuck did a moon come from, he would say. Getting hit face first, crashing into the orbit of the moon, onto its surface. He would realize this isn't a moon, but one of the orbs. Before a giant hole would open and he would fall through. It would say, "You've fallen into my trap," literally. Before he would get enclosed in a void of darkness. Before feeling a sun thrown at him, he turned around to see a gigantified Izuku standing there in a godlike position before putting back his hands and praying, "Calamity, killer," blasting him for going hand to hand with Cthulhu, summoning Kratos' staff, Johnny's chains and axes, and his katana, blasting him at the same all with going hand to hand with the god of destruction. Raphael would be sitting there, floating, for saying, "My master's praying too much." "You finally make me sweat! 23%!" Zatulu would say before punching straight through Izuku, punching his lower jaw off. Would sit there floating in air, regenerating his jaw, launching a purple blast at the figure, followed by a red and blue attack. For punching his hands together. "You fucked up," he would say, his hands getting covered in plasma-like energy before punching a figure hundreds of times. "In this domain, I am God!" Summoning 7 suns, blasting all of them at him, before summoning a mini solar system, blowing it up on top of him. "Yes, yes, yes!" he would say, charging. Cthulhu would charge at Izuku, summoning his staff of Ares before shooting a railgun-like attack at him, blasting him launching him down onto his surface. Before looking down to see a gigantic X as a beam would blast him. Multiples would attack him at the same time. Hakai destroying all of the attacks. Before covering his hand in flames and blasting Cthulhu, not holding back. Putting out his hand and blasting the fire away. Izuku would teleport behind him, putting him in a full Nelson, before summoning Kratos' sword, stabbing him through the chest alongside himself. But it didn't even stab, it broke on impact with rock hard ass. So he would notice a tiny horn grow, 2 tiny horns growing on Izuku's head. 3 tiny horns growing on Izuku's head. First, the horn of an Omomoshiki-like horn, a ram horn, and a demon horn. his right pupil would be flickering multiple different colors. His pupil would be colored 3 different colors: purple, red, and blue. Marks would appear on his body. The Omega mark, a red skull, and then a purple fiery skull. Inside the Omega. Before he would grow 3 separate wings, growing a pair of 6 wings. A tail would grow from him, his hands becoming metallic, as he would say, in an echoey tone. Now, let's see what you are capable of. For fighting, punching the figure, making him cough up blood before slamming him down. But the figure would go up, charge up even more, putting his hand on the ground, destroying Izuku's domain, sending him back to his shooting orb form. That's all I needed, he would say, summoning his katana, blasting the figure once more. Or flying at him at light speeds, punching him through the earth itself. Or flying quick around the earth, punching him, sending him flying, burning him up in the atmosphere, sending him flying towards the sun. As Izuku would revert back to his divine calamity form, looking at his right arm, realizing it's starting to become black, and it's starting to crack, realizing what that means. Before finally finishing his fight, punching Cthulhu across the face, while Cthulhu punches him in the face with his right, Deku punching him with his left. Yeah, Cthulhu punching him with his left, Deku punching him with his right, as all Deku's hand would turn black, shattering before knocking Cthulhu away. Deku would fall into his form, his arm completely having disintegrated as Cthulhu Hokkaido sit there triumphantly. For all 3 of the stones would fall from the other 2 stones would fall to earth. As Raphael would put out his hand, healing his master, black and white, black would appear. Cthulhu, my black. I never thought I'd see you here on this world of all places. You either, demon. Leave before I destroy the book. Raphael's wing would spread out his wings. I do advise we leave, master. Fine, the Zathulu would say. But I'll be back. Izuku would sit there armless. As he would not be regenerating. Black realizing what this means. As Izuku would start to bleed out. As he would close the wound. As he would look around and see the destruction around him. All the Eternals would stand up, get it going from under the rubble, helping each other. Kirishima would punch his way through rubble. Ida, you're on civilian rescue along with Mina. Gabi, yeah, help them. Civilian rescue is our main priority. For other heroes will be arriving on the scene from the destroyed Japan. Izuku and the three calamities would be locked up by the Japan government. As the false reason for the attack. This will be all three of their suits, but labeled with their calamity symbols. Deku would have a red skull, would have a red X this time instead of a skull. Johnny would have a purple flaming skull. Kratos would have an omega symbol on his. Deku would have a full mask to cover his face. But this time he would be missing an arm. He would sit in his cell chained down by diamond and steel chains. Kratos would sit in like how Kratos was sealed in God of War, with restraints on his body. Johnny would be put in a freezing chamber. Before All Might would walk in, looking at Deku, was saying, not All Might Black, I mean, having snuck in. I failed. I saw. As the government just made the biggest mistake of their lives. As Black would set off multiple bombs, attacking the government facility they would be held in, shutting off the containment on Izuku for holding his confidence. You can come in, you're good to attack now. Shigaraki Tomura. Shigaraki would say, the facility would be swarmed with villains. As Shigaraki would walk out, stinks, with a man next to him, with the same suits as Deku and the three calamities, just with long black hair and a mask with eyeless pupilless eyes. As it would say, Project CN. Nomu, come. Now, Cumber, free the calamities! Shigaraki would say, as Cumber would sit there and grunt, for blasting off. For grabbing the chambers they would be held in, using his power. As it would be revealed to Deku before getting locked up that his mother is dead, as she was killed during the attack. As he would sit there motionless. Deku would wake up to find himself with a cybernetic Izuku's new arm as he would clench his fist, scratching the wall. As Shigaraki would walk in. Finally awake, he would say. Where am I? Deku would snap, sitting on a shockwave throughout the building. The other calamities being woken up by this. You're in the League of Vids. I don't know who you are. The League of Vids. I'm assuming you gave me this for bodyguards. Yes, we did. Now come, meet your new friends. Sit there to see Cumber sitting on Cumber on the table, sitting on the table. You're the one who freed us. Correct. Thank you. As he would look at Cumber, Cumber would grunt. He's not a talker. He was just created. Was he? He is a gnome. We named Cumber. He's on the level of all things. He's pretty weak. Uh-oh. As Izuku would feel a kick to the face, getting thrown off the side of the building, revealing to be in a forest. My type of giraffe. Him and Cumber being in, as Izuku would rip off the restraints to his arms. As his arms would be apart, he would put his hands through. His cybernetic arm already being free. As he would regenerate the cloth of his prison armor, only not tying his hands back together, but keeping his hands free. He would flex his muscles, destroying the top. The new and improved Izuku. Just black hair, a metallic arm. He got that! Drip, 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 drip. As Cumber would rip his restraints off, punching Izuku. Izuku grabbing his fist and ripping it off, breaking it with his bare hand. Or summoning black and whipping Cumber. I guess Cobb stealing a little bit of Kirishima's DNA did help after all. What? Deku would say, one for all. We cloned one for all and gave it to you. You are our Noma. They are created with the ability to host multiple quirks, or as we call them, multi-quirkers. All you're doing is making me stronger. That's what we want. As the Cumber would go to punch Izuku, charging up a punch, as Izuku would sit there and he would dodge out of the way effortlessly, dodging all of Cumber's attacks, activating his calamity powers. Good and red. His mask would glow a blood red aura. As double skulls would appear in his eyes as he would dodge every one of Cumber's attacks easily, even bending reality for him to mold his body out of the way of every punch and adapting before breaking Cumber's arm and punching a hole through his chest. Cumber regenerating. High-speed regeneration. Let's try one for all. Buffing up. His hand would get buffed up. Let's be honest, Izuku has like a 10-pack at this point. Izuku's hand would glow as he would punch Cumber, breaking his jaw before punching him again, breaking his leg. before summoning his katana, but this time, instead of red, it's black. As he would slash down on Cumber, said, destroying his restraints. I know those are holding your power, your true power back. They say you're strong as all when you're really on the level of a calamity, of a low calamity. No! Shigaraki would say, as Cumber would power up. Into punching Izuku, destroying his mask. Izuku would regenerate his mask, punching back as fast as he could, breaking Cumber's bones with just bare wood.
It really helps.
Or summoning Black Whip, making it into a portal. Summoning, blasting Cumber, making multiple portals, blasting him over again. Before Cumber would teleport, punching Izuku through a mountain. And say, my body might be just a bit rusty. Say, charging up his calamity form into a super calamity transformation. Sheesh! I flipped that bitch. Yeah, I flipped that bitch. I flipped that bitch. Before charging at Cumber, punching him. I wonder who might be able to take it. It's a white man, you buffoons! Cumber and Deku would be going in. As Deku would finally be getting back into shape, stretching. Getting used to his new cybernetic arm. For jumping at Cumber, punching a hole through his stomach. As a black aura would surround him, as he would say, disappear. Before blasting a black hole at Cumber, blowing up his entire body. Cumber would scream. His hair growing an inch longer, revealing Super Saiyan 2 Cumber. Where are these transformations coming from? They feel like the calamity. Before getting punched by Cumber multiple times into the motherfucking ground. Cumber would grab his skull before blasting it. As a blackish purple aura would surround Deku. His eyes would glow as he would release a gas from his mask. Beating down on Cumber, going into Super Calamity Black 3. More yet, the stiff powers amazing. Before dodging an attack from Cumber. As he would grab Cumber's tail, pulling it. All his nerves would shut down as he would fall to the ground, roaring, transforming into Super Saiyan 4, Deku would say. His power. What is this transformation? Cumber would stand up, punching Izuku. This is the drip that Izuku got from Shigaraki. Izuku would be like, Cumber would stand there, looking over the beaten deck, as Deku would say, "Screw it!" For charging. Punch, 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 punch. Monkey noises. Cumber's not even a human. He's not even from Earth. We found his lifeless body in a meteor one day. Nearly complete, his entire body nearly destroyed. Master brought him in and gave him the power of a Nomu, but he was too strong that not even he could defeat him. So he enslaved Cumber using that suit. But now Cumber's going berserk. Scan his race. He is not human. In fact, he is an ancient species of apes, of aliens, of apes that was sent to far away from the earth, that over time evolved to be human, with human-like textures, but grew to be hundreds of times stronger than humans. Their combat capabilities were feared throughout the universe itself. They had a myth known as the Super Saiyan, and this very being is that Saiyan. He is a Saiyan. Cumber. Standing. Oh God, what am I gonna do? I can't beat him, can I? He is superior to your Cumber, to you as you are now. And now to all three of us. The demonic ghost voice, as the demonic voice would say, revealing Johnny and Kratos. Let's get him. As all three of them would charge in their calamity forms, Izuku punching, as they would all be in their super calamity forms. Izuku at his strongest, punching Cumber. Izuku couldn't dodge perfectly anymore, but he would get slammed to the ground, not as Cumber would knock out all three of Kratos and Johnny. As Deku would sit there beaten. As he would go back to his base form, as he would try to look deep down to force out more of his calamity powers. He would do it. As his calamity mark would appear, as an X mark would appear on his chest, a horn would begin to grow from his head. As inside of his eyes, a red X could be seen forming. But this time, both of his eyes were open, as his hair would begin to flow, turning green. As he would charge at Cumber, clashing with him. Punching, hitting with a calamity orb, slamming it into his gut. Cumber would be standing there. As he would fly midair, Izuku would be like, Okay, body, don't fail me now! We're super jumping into the sky! As his horn will begin to shrink, as he cannot go use too much of his power, he knows he'll snap and go berserk. So his horn is very small. As they would reach near above the clouds, Cumber and him would be ready to face off. Deku hitting him with a calamity wave, blasting Cumber back, as Cumber would hit him with a black, hitting him with a Ki blast, and then a planet breaker, hitting him with a red and black orb, as Izuku would sit there taking the attack head on. Izuku would be panting heavily. I can't beat this guy by myself. Domain expansion, domain of the calamity. Instead, his calamity energy would become black instead of its normal red. His transformations were the same, with more black hints to them. As if his powers had become corrupt with anger, sadness. Izuku would open a portal, stabbing Cumber right into his jaw. Domain of Sparta, he would hear a voice say as another domain would combine with his. And then domain of hell, domain expansion, hell, before a fiery-like realm would fuse with his, making the calamity domain, the calamity's dimension. As they would stand behind Izuku summoning truth orbs, calamity orbs, handing one to each Kratos and Johnny. Let's take this ugly bastard down, guys. Deku would say, clenching his arm as you could see the wires in his arms and the mechanics to rebuild it. He would cover his arm and its energy, melding it into his own. Izuku would say, "This should be good enough." Keeping the sharp claws, but making them more finger-shaped. For cracking his knuckles before saying, "Let us go." Before charging at Cumber, punching him across the jaw. As Cumber would slam Deku across the face. Kratos would run at him holding his staff, which he had learned to weave and meld into any weapon he thinks of, turning it into a spear of sorts, before stabbing him in the sky. Johnny wrapping around his chains, crushing and hitting him with his axe. Cumber would scream, charging up to become a Super Saiyan God. As Izuku realized he can't sense Cumber's energy signal. As a red, beefed-up Cumber would teleport behind him, Kratos would scream and slow as time would begin to slow. As Cumber would go to punch on, he's down on Izuku, time would freeze as Izuku would say, "Stop." As Izuku's perception of time would exceed its limit, going so quick to that the point where time itself felt as if it was slowing. As Izuku would dodge out of the way as time would move, as he would say, only Black could do something like that. But blasting Cumber, bombarding him with attacks using his domain with the combined power of everyone else's. As he would surround him in the black box of death. As the Cumber would scream again with a blue majestic aura, as the box would explode, revealing a blue-haired Cumber. Can't defeat this person individually. We have to combine our powers somehow. As Kratos would put his back on Izuku, his hand on Izuku's back, Johnny would do the same, as they would charge, all their power sinking, as Kratos would remember that he remembered a way to transfer power into another person. As they would become energy, fusing into one, using the fusion techniques from one of the forbidden scrolls that Black said they were not allowed to read. But Johnny and Kratos, being who they are, read both the scroll and how to do it. The power of a calamity. Fusing together, Deku would have the mark of Kratos, the flame of Johnny. But with one slight detail. The 3 Calamity Stones would be in his chest in a triangle-like formation. War. Vengeance. Hacking. The 3 Calamity Stones united as an armor would surround around Izuku as he would punch Cumber as Cumber would block it. Destroying the domain with a swipe of his hand, punching Izanitos to the ground. He would sprout wings midair, flying back up, cutting Cumber in half. Cumber would regenerate himself back together. His hair would flicker black again with the divine aura as he would punch Izuku, shattering his skull. But due to the fact of all the calamities God-level healing, he would instantaneously, literally heal faster than light itself could move. Him and Cumber would clash in disguise, tearing existence, before finally one of them would fall. As we would see 3 men falling to the floor, Cumber would stand in the air triumphantly before floating back down, looking down at his adversaries before deciding to spare them, going all the way back down to his base form. Izuku would regenerate his clothes, going back in the face. You need to make me stronger. He would yell at Shiraki. Would sit there and be surprised that someone so strong could really exist. Maybe if I make me a noble, Deku would say. Excuse me? You want me to make you a noble? Not create your own servant noble, or I want to become a noble? Oh no, said the master. As he would bring him to the doctor, Deku realizes it's the same doctor that tested him when he was 5, so many years ago, which at this point feels like 100 years to Deku. As Deku would go through the testing, they would begin to test on Izuku's body, but before Izuku said he would request the results of fusing his genetics with the Saiyan genetics, as Deku would get his DNA fused with Cumber's DNA. Calamity saved. As Izuku would have an aura that would destroy the dub around him. All the quirks would be labeled on the screen. Hyper regeneration, hyper stamina, hyper senses, enhanced reflection, hyper reflection, reaction speed, enhanced hyper speed, hyper strength, super, all sorts of things, and muscle augmentation, along with One for All, which he had recently copied from Kirishima, revealing that he has a hacker ability that allows him to copy abilities permanently, similar to One for All, but even better. As his calamity powers would store the quirks, making them stronger. As that would explain how Izuku was able to already use Black Whip, seeing how he never even knew how to use One for All, only seeing All Might and Kirishima use it. But Deku didn't have any pesky past One for All spirits bugging him all the time. He had full domination over One for All now. He called it Black One for All, Dark One for All. Black X. Bet. Now, over the year, Izuku would be gone for nearly 3 years, along with his brother Calamities. Deku would quickly learn to combine Super Saiyan with his Super Calamity, making Golden Calamity. Then Golden Calamity 2. Then Golden Calamity 3. Ascending to Golden Calamity 4. Him and Cumber would face off against each other once more, this time Deku coming out triumphant. Him and Cumber would become regular sparring partners, as Cumber was basically just a calamity without the powers of one. We're going to the city, and we're gonna attack. We're gonna attack the USJ. The USJ. Now, this time, the USJ wouldn't happen until far later on in the series. We will send Deku with Kumba, an army of 1,000 villains. Don't make it 1,000, make it 1,000,000. The students in 1A are powerful. I had an entire team made from the most elite So I know who is the strongest bit. The new red X drip, which I say black X. As they would warp into the USJ, Cumber walking through in his suit, with red black X walking right after him. Attack. As that instant Kirishima would jump off, attacking every villain in sight. The Eternals moving out as well. As he would see Deku stare right at Kirishima, saying, "He is mine." And that is why I'm going to be leaving off What If Deku Was a Reality Hacker, Part 10. Or 9. Part 10, I'm pretty sure.